I had the career, the stability, the title, doctor, but at 47, I walked away from all of it. Most people thought I was crazy, and some days I did too. But what came next changed everything. I didn't just leave medicine, I left an identity, and the life that opened up for me on the other side, it looked nothing like what came before. I started working entirely from home, and I became my own boss, and that made me location independent. And I began earning more than I did as a doctor. But even more important than all of that, I got to walk my kids to school and be there for the moments that I used to miss. I reconnected with my home life and with myself. I had time for hobbies and health and joy. This video isn't just about my story, though. It's about yours. If you have been feeling the tug to start over or that quiet knowing that something in your life needs to shift, this is for you. I'm going to tell you the truth about starting over. I am going to reveal exactly what holds most people back, and then I'm going to give you a really simple 3-step process for how you can start over. And then finally, in this video, I'm going to share with you the 3 surprising things that I learned as I was going through this whole thing myself. Stick with me. Now, before we get into everything, I want to mention that if you're looking for some support as you get started with all of this, I've created a free 5-day challenge called The Reset. It's designed to help you to shift your energy, clear your mind, and get back in motion. You will find the link below. So here's the truth. Most people who start over in mid-career and midlife aren't reckless. They're brave, and they're listening to a deeper truth that's been whispering for years. There's actually a name for this shift. Psychologists call it the U-curve of happiness. Research shows that life satisfaction tends to dip in our 40s and early 50s before rising again in the decades that follow. That dip doesn't mean that you have failed. It means that you're ripe for reinvention. So here are some signs that you are ready for change. You feel restless, like something's off, even if nothing is technically wrong. You fantasize about doing something else, but you brush it off as unrealistic. Or you start asking yourself, is this it? For me, it started as a quiet discomfort. I couldn't unfeel it. And the more that I ignored it, the more disconnected I felt from myself, from my work, from my joy. So if you're feeling that too, you're not crazy. You're not broken. You might just be ready for your next chapter. Okay, so that said, now I want to talk about what holds most people back. Let's be honest, starting over sounds romantic until you're actually facing it. That's when the fear hits. Here are some of the thoughts that I've heard from clients and friends, and yes, even myself. What if I fail? What will people think? I've already invested so much time in this. Won't it all be a waste? Am I too old to start over? What if it's too late for me? I remember telling my husband one night, what if I am throwing away everything that I've worked for? And he said something that I'll never forget. He said, or what if this is the first time that you are finally working for yourself? That reframed everything. And here's what the data actually shows. A survey by the American Institute for Economic Research found that 82% of people who changed careers after age 45 reported a successful transition. Many even hit their financial and personal goals. And in the UK, researchers found that 1/3 of people aged 45 to 54 expect to change careers before they retire. So no, you're not alone, and you're not too late. Here's the thing that most people don't realize. Fear doesn't mean that you're doing the wrong thing. In fact, fear is often a sign that you are on the right path. It's just unfamiliar. So what you can do is try to reframe your fears. Instead of asking, what if I fail? Ask, what if I grow? Instead of, what if I'm too old? Try, what if my timing is perfect? The fear doesn't go away, but what changes is your willingness to move with it. That's when things start to shift. So now I want to talk about how to actually start over. I want to break down the real steps that helped me to begin again, to give you a simple, doable, and powerful roadmap for how you can do the same thing. When people think about starting over, they imagine some dramatic leap. Quit the job, sell the house, move to Bali. But in real life, reinvention doesn't usually start with a leap. It starts with a whisper, and then a series of tiny steps. For me, it came in 3 phases, and I have seen the same pattern with so many others who have reinvented their lives. So here we go. Phase 1 is pause and listen. Before you change anything externally, you have to hear yourself again. I want you to make space, even just 10 minutes a day, to journal, walk without distractions, or sit in silence. Then ask better questions. What do I want more of? What have I outgrown? What would I do if I wasn't afraid? This part is subtle, but it's essential. It's about clearing out the noise and tuning back into your own voice. I didn't wake up one day with a lightning bolt moment. It was gradual. My clarity came in whispers. I do remember sitting in a cafe one morning, writing in my journal. It wasn't anything profound. I was just scribbling down my thoughts. And I wrote a sentence that stopped me cold. I wrote, "I don't want to feel like this for the next 10 years. I didn't even know what I meant by this at the time, but I knew I was tired of rushing, tired of feeling disconnected from my life, tired of ignoring that quiet sense that I was meant for more. That moment didn't give me a plan, but it gave me permission to start looking. And that's the key. This phase isn't about action. It's about awareness. You don't need a vision board or a master plan yet. Just a few quiet moments to ask yourself, what have I outgrown? What keeps calling to me? What would I do if I wasn't afraid? Now, if you're brave enough to pause and listen, the answers do start to come piece by piece. From there, we move on to phase number 2, which is experiment and explore. At this stage, you don't need a 5-year plan. You need a 5-day experiment. This is where a lot of people freeze up. They think that they need a perfectly clear vision or business plan before they can begin. But reinvention doesn't start with certainty. It starts with curiosity and a little bit of courage. You don't have to declare a new career or reinvent your whole identity today. Just start playing. Think of this phase as gentle exploration. You're collecting clues. Sign up for a course that sparks your interest, or start a side project, even if no one sees it, or volunteer for something that feels aligned, or read obsessively about a path that you can't stop thinking about. Don't worry yet about making money from it or turning it into a brand. Just follow the pull. When I started, it wasn't some big master plan. I didn't wake up and say, I'm going to build an online business. I just started blogging. At first, it was a way to reconnect with my own voice after years of clinical checklists and 10-minute appointments. I wrote in the evenings and during my kids' nap time and on weekends, really whenever I could steal a few quiet moments. And something came alive in me. I didn't have an audience. I didn't know where it was all going, but I loved it. And for the first time in a long time, I felt creative. That one small experiment opened a door, and then another. Over time, it led to content creation, online programs, coaching, entrepreneurship, and yes, eventually even YouTube. You don't need to quit your job or move across the country. You just need to start where you are with what you have. Action creates clarity, and clarity creates direction. Now, at a certain point, experimenting turns into something else. You realize this isn't just a curiosity anymore, it's a calling. And that's when we move into phase 3, which is commit and reshape. Once I started writing regularly and creating content, I began to see patterns. I noticed what energized me and what resonated with others and what I wanted more of. That's when I moved from just trying things out to building something. This is the phase where you start shaping your new reality. Now, it might mean shifting your schedule to make some space, or saying no to what no longer fits, creating systems and routines and boundaries that support your new path. You start owning your new identity, not just privately, but publicly. And you begin designing your days around your values, not just your obligations. And you stop asking for permission and start giving yourself authority. There was a moment when I realized this wasn't a side project anymore. I was no longer a doctor who dabbled in blogging. I was building a business. I was becoming an entrepreneur. And over time, that identity shift began to influence everything. My work, my income, my time, my family life. I had more freedom, more presence, and more alignment. And with that came more impact. I was helping people in a whole new way on a much bigger scale than I ever could in a clinic room. This is the point where you stop waiting for permission. You stop saying someday and you start building today. It's not always comfortable, but it is transformative. So if you're in that foggy middle space, don't panic. You don't have to figure it all out today, but you do have to start listening. And then you have to be willing to move. So yes, those 3 phases got me moving. They helped me to leave behind a version of my life that no longer fit and start building one that finally did. But what I didn't expect was just how much would change, because once I committed, everything started to expand. My identity, my income, my sense of freedom, even the way that I saw myself. And in the next part of this video, I want to share the biggest lessons that I have learned on the other side, what no one tells you about starting over and what is really waiting for you if you're brave enough to begin. Once I committed to my new path, the changes didn't just stay in my work life. They touched everything. And what I know now, after walking through all of it, is that starting over isn't just about building a new life. It's about becoming a new version of you. So truth number 1 is this: you're not starting over from scratch. You're starting from experience. It might feel like you're tossing everything out and beginning at zero, but you're not. You're bringing every skill, every insight, every lesson with you. I didn't throw out all my years of experience in medicine when I stopped practicing. I brought it all with me. You don't practice for 20 years without acquiring a pretty deep understanding of people and motivation and health and behavior. And so I still have all of that. I'm just using it in a different way now. I'm using it to teach and to coach and to create and to build. Your past wasn't wasted time. It was training. You're not behind. You're uniquely equipped. Truth number 2 is that freedom looks different than you think. I thought I was just changing careers, but what I really did was completely redesign my lifestyle. I started working from home, and for the first time, I could breathe between appointments. Like I said, I walked my kids to school and I had lunch in my own kitchen. I became location independent, which then opened up possibilities that I hadn't even imagined. One of the most unexpected and joyful outcomes of starting over was realizing that I could now live wherever I wanted. And as a family, we are now building a bi-continental life. So we spend part of the year here in Canada and then part of the year in Europe. That is something that I never would have believed was possible when I was working full-time in a clinic. Also, I finally had time to move my body and to read and to pursue hobbies. And I broke through my old income ceiling. I now earn more than I did as a full-time doctor. And I became a YouTuber, which still makes me smile. But that's what happens when you create space to grow. None of that was on the original plan. It was only possible because I was willing to release what wasn't working and follow what felt true. Now, if you're curious about the lifestyle side of all this, how we actually make a bicontinental life work, then I share more of that over on our vlog channel, which I will link below. Truth number 3 is that identity is flexible, and that's a gift. The most powerful shift wasn't logistical, it was internal. I let go of who I thought I was supposed to be and gave myself permission to become something else. That identity shift didn't happen overnight. It took time. It took awkwardness. But the more that I aligned my actions with my real values, the more natural it felt. Eventually, I stopped saying, I used to be a doctor, and started saying, this is who I am now. You're allowed to outgrow your old story. You're allowed to rewrite it. You're allowed to become someone new. Was it always easy? No, I definitely had moments of doubt, and I grieved some of what I left behind. But every time I looked at the life that I was creating, I knew it was worth it. And the most beautiful part, you don't have to change everything to change your life. Sometimes one brave decision is enough to open up a completely new chapter. So if you're watching this and you have been feeling really stuck and restless or like you're meant for something more, I want you to know this. It's not too late, you're not behind, and you haven't missed your shot. You don't need to have all the answers, you just need to take the first few steps. Because clarity doesn't come from thinking, it comes from moving. And that's exactly why I created the reset that I mentioned earlier. It's a free 5-day challenge designed to help you to clear the mental clutter, reconnect with yourself, and get back into forward motion. It's short and simple and powerful. You'll get a daily email from me with just one small prompt or shift to help you to reset your energy, your focus, and your direction, plus a printable tracker and a few bonus tools that I usually reserve for paid students. If something has been nudging you to change, don't ignore it. Let this be your invitation to begin. Click the link below to join me for the reset. I will see you there. Starting over in my 40s changed my life, but more importantly, it brought me back to myself. And that's what I want for you too. Now, if you enjoyed this video, then I think that you are going to love the one that I have got coming up for you next on the next screen. It's about 7 things that you need to stop doing after you hit 40. I will see you there. Walk without distractions or sit in silence. My nose just suddenly got so itchy. Oh my God, now my nose is probably red. Great. Okay, I'll just wait. Have some tea. Oh my God, that was weird.